Welcome back to Grid Down Prepping at Guns America Digest. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so at GunsAmerica.com/digest, and you'll get the email with this and all of the other specialty publications in addition to gun reviews and all kinds of great gun stuff. Today I am covering something that is going to be relevant to a lot of you soon, not to me. I live in South Florida. I don't need the heat at all. I'm going to have to deal with the heat, but I will not have to heat. And what I found is I found this little coal stove. A lot of you guys heat with wood, and wood is great if you have it on your property, and it's not inconvenient for most people who are used to storing wood. But if you're not burning your wood, if you're just storing your wood and you're not using it year to year, it's problematic, all right? I keep no wood near my house anymore because I tried to keep firewood near my house and I instantly lost that entire corner of my house to termites. Not instantly, but I did. So wood also, as soon as you put it away, as soon as you get it, it starts to lose its BTUs. It starts to kind of hollow out. For those of you who kept wood for a long time, you know that it actually physically gets lighter. You'd think that as it dries, you know, it's just drying, it's just losing water. Water doesn't burn anyway. You'd think all those things are true, but you know what? They're not true. Wood starts losing BTUs as soon as you get it. So, as most of you know, I've been a big advocate of keeping diesel and or home heating oil on hand, and I have covered heaters that cover them or that burn them over the years. But the problem with it is that diesel and home heating oil don't really burn well in your average wick heater that uses the circular wicks, and I've covered those before, like the Aladdin Blue Flame heaters like that, and I'm going to go cover them again. I know that most of you guys were not with me on the old Prepping 101 days, and those of you who did, maybe a lot of you were using it as infotainment at the time, and now you've decided to stop calling me crazy and extremist, and you're actually trying to take care of yourself and your family. So the problem with wood is the twofold, is that keeping it, you do tend to get termites, and you also do tend to lose the BTUs out of it. So 1, 2, 3. The reason I focus on diesel, though, is because it stores well and you don't lose any BTUs. If you put Pri-D into it, you don't lose any BTUs really at all. You lose nothing. There's no downside to it whatsoever. So I am a firm believer that diesel is one of the best storage mediums that you can get. This is kind of comical because I thought the stove wasn't lit, and I went to go look for my torch, my plumbing torch, so that I could get it going, and sure enough, it's going. So I had used fat wood to start the fire. So I'm going to load it up a little bit with coal before I get into some of this. And the thing about coal, there's two primary kinds of coal that you're going to experience buying yourself. And I did buy some coal. Coal comes out of the ground exactly the way it burns. It does not degrade. It can get rained on. It really doesn't matter what you do with coal. Coal is just one of those things that is always going to work no matter what. And I got coal, even though I'm surrounded by wood, and I have wood stoves to cook with, and as you guys know, I have rocket stoves and all that stuff. I got coal so that I could test all of these stoves and things with it. that was my hope and my plan, was to test all of these things with it. Coal comes in two forms, that usually, all right? One of them is what's called bituminous coal. Okay, it's the dull coal. There's also a sub-bituminous coal that I have not seen for sale myself, but supposedly it's even rougher around the edges than bituminous coal. Now, bituminous coal is the dirty coal that you think of when you think of like a coal-fired plant. You think of dirty coal, right? So that generally is going to be bituminous coal. That's hot. It's already hot. Bituminous coal. I'm just pushing I'll show you how I push the stovepipe on, so I'm not getting smoke in the face. Bituminous coal burns dirty. You do have to clean your pipe, that kind of stuff. It's not a real clean burning fuel, but that is what almost everyone heats with. That's what most blacksmiths use. That is the most common kind of coal. This is the problem that I had with coal, is getting it going. And that is double for the other kind of coal, which is anthracite coal. The anthracite coal burns clean. As far as I've been able to tell, you never even have to clean your flue, because it's just that good. It's considered a clean fuel, in fact, I believe, by the crazy, oligarchs who run all this crazy shit. So if you can get bituminous coal, great. But the problem with bituminous coal is that it's really hard to light. And not only hard to light, but hard to keep lit. So it's something that if you end up buying this little guy, I haven't really talked about the stove much yet. If you decide to buy this little guy, it's an extremely valuable product. And if you can get your hands on some anthracite and some bituminous coal, they usually comes in bags. Then you could try the two of them together and just see how it goes for you. See what you think. With bituminous coal, you are going to have to clean your flue and clean the pipes and all that kind of stuff like you would with wood. It's not as intense with the creosote, I don't believe, as with wood. But I've never heated with coal. My grandfather did. My grandfather filled his coal stove, and I asked my father about it. He was not. It was one of the things that he never did. He never filled the stove. So, anthracite, I got in Pennsylvania. I got a couple pallets of anthracite, and I'm going to have to figure out how to use it. What I did is I got these big lunks. I got what they call stove coal, all right? And I thought stove coal was small. I figured they were all going to be like that size, right? But it turned out that they weren't. They were much bigger, and they don't catch real easy. So for this experiment, I'm actually breaking them up with one of those big smashers that they sell at Home Depot and Harbor Freight, and I'm going to see if the smaller pieces will catch and burn as easily. Now, the other thing I didn't say about wood is I didn't really prepare an organizational structure for this video. I just kind of had to get it done. But in the article that goes along with this, I'll lay this out a lot more clearly, I'm sure. The problem, another problem with wood is that it burns out. We've all woken up in the middle. For anyone who's ever heated with wood, we've all woken up in the middle of the night and been cold, and then had to go feed the fire, feed the stove, right? And with coal, you don't have to. This stuff will last. I've only really looked up the anthracite because that's what I have. But this stuff, you can fill up a stove like this and it will burn for like 36 hours. And that is like, 24 hours is nothing. 48 hours is normal, but depending on how big your stove is, it can go 36 hours. And it is rip snorting heat, okay? So my conundrum has always been with stoves, and this is going back to gasoline and diesel as well, is that most of the stoves are made to heat a really big space, right? A big space. And when you're in a survival situation, what you should be concentrating on is really conserving your fuel, not heating a big space. So I've told people, if they have no heater, just set up a tent in their living room if you can't heat your house, because that's going to give you plenty of heat. You know, just from your body heat alone, it's going to keep you pretty much going, okay? I'm going to put in this anthracite now and hope that I'm not going to end up emptying this out and have to reshoot this whole thing because my stove went out. The difference being, you see, I'm getting smoke already, so that means I put something out. The 1, 2, 3. Most stoves are created for this giant space, right? But I don't want to heat a giant space. I want to heat a small space and conserve my fuel as much as possible in a survival situation. I want to conserve my fuel as much as I possibly can. So that means that I'm going to try to heat a smaller space. But that is just simply not a possibility with a lot of stoves. They are meant for big stoves. And I'm, like I did the H45 stove. This is better actually, because now I'm gonna put my other connector piece. The stove comes with four 4-foot stove pipes that fit it, and 2 elbows. So it should be all you need really to get it going. Yeah, okay, now it's above my head. That should be all you need really to get it going. To pipe it out to the outside, because this stove was obviously meant to be used as a home stove. The nice thing is that it's so small that you can use a tiny bit of fuel, load it right up, and you're going to be all set for a few days. And the amount of fuel that it uses is really minuscule. It looks like it's crackle popping in there, which means that it is burning. It means that the bituminous coal is burning. Now, am I going to be able to burn the anthracite? I don't know. I probably will not know until it goes out and I see what is left in there when it goes out. It has a real stove door with a window, and it has a real seal of asbestos seal. The door closer is a little bit hinky. It's meant to be loose so that you can kind of wedge the door closed so that you don't have any stove leakage. The cover obviously comes off for cooking on once you're going, and it does not seem to leak at all. And one of the features that this stove has that makes it specifically a coal stove is that it has a shaker grate, okay? The shaker grate pushes back and forth under the coals, and it shakes the coals down in. Now, you saw me just dump the coal on top without concern that it's going to smother the flames. With coal, it's strange. You don't have to worry about it. I don't know if it's just that the coal has enough space in there that the air comes up through, but there has to be under air for it. It does draw from the bottom, so you have to have a good supply of air. And this has an ash door here, and the ash door the ash system under here is the base from which the air goes. And then what you have to do is you have to pull out your ash door and use your pick, okay, to get into the holes of the grate and pick it out, make sure that it's not clogged. You have to do that every, whatever, once a day or something as your stove is burning down. You do have to pull it out or it will go out. And regularly, you should, you probably should get up in the middle of the night to do your wiggle grate. But I don't know if you have to. I have no experience with this stove at all. What made me excited about this stove is that it's small. It's small. You can heat a small space with it, and it will not waste your fuel heating a big space with it. You can cook on it. It has really everything that you need. I am getting a little bit of smoke leaking here, probably because I have my pipe tilted this way. Really not a lot of smoke is coming out of the sides of this at all, though. Mostly it's coming off of the it's coming off of the pipe. There's a tiny little wispies. Maybe I didn't seat it perfectly there, but I've got some tiny little wispies there. And there's a reason why, obviously, coal stoves go in the basement, is because they're, all wood stoves really. Also, is that they're dirty. They're dirty. And yeah, this guy's going. He seems like he's going, and he is putting out some rip snorting heat. Coal puts out a ridiculous amount of heat, and this is solid cast iron. Like, it's a big cast iron thing. It comes apart, and for cleaning, the top comes off, and you can get even the shaker grate is a very simple mechanism. It fits right into it, and everything is cast iron. It looks like it's sand cast because it's got rough outsides to it. Now, the people, this is Chinese. It has Chinese characters on the front. The people of China use coal stoves exclusively in many regions of China. In fact, the government forced them to install gas stoves, natural gas stoves, and they actually sent their stormtroopers in and physically took the coal stoves out of their houses. So it's like the Chinese government wants to be able to control people's heat, which is because they control the gas. It's a central supply. With coal, you can buy a bag here, a bag there, throw it under the bed, throw it in the garage, throw it wherever, and no one knows what you got. No one knows what you're doing. And the best thing, they can't take it away from you. That's what we have to worry about more than anything, is whether they can take it away. So this guy seems to be lit. I am going to just let it sit here, and I will come back in several hours and see if it's still lit, because I've never done this before, and this is all new to me. So this whole experience is new to me, and we'll just see how well it works, see how well it lasts burning. I cannot tell you how rare it is that my first try succeeds at pretty much everything for this column. This thing is rip snorting hot, and the anthracite is burning. And how do I know that the anthracite is burning? Because my chimney went from black smoke, black nasty smoke from the bituminous coal, to no smoke at all from the anthracite. In fact, I thought the anthracite went out. I looked outside, there was no smoke, and the anthracite, I thought, went out, but it is burning red down in there. It actually worked the first time. Don't forget, a 12-hour, 24-hour, 36-hour burn, whatever, is going to be it's a lot of coal in a big whole home heating stove, right? But this guy is just a little guy, so there's not a ton of coal in there. So we will see. I'll check tonight, and then I'll check in the morning to see if he is still going just on the, how many bricks did I even bust up? I don't know, but he was pretty full to the top, right? All right, so let's check that now. let's check and see how full he is, right? Man, even this thing. So he's pretty full, okay? Pretty full with anthracite. That is lying in the sun. The poker feels like it's been next to the oven. Not the poker, the lifter, you know, because it's so hot in this Florida sun. I do not need one of these stoves. I hope you guys appreciate it, that I cover stuff that I don't need. And I did make sure that there's at least some of these in the country. Some of these are going to be drop shipped, and some will be in the country. So here we are at night, and it's completely cooled off. And the stove lasted about, I would say, a good solid 4 to 5 hours on that coal that came up to here, right? I'm using my solar lights that I covered a couple weeks ago. The coal came up to about there, and that is about where the vent pipe is. I'm not saying you couldn't probably stuff it right to the top here and get maybe 8 hours out of it, but that's kind of a, you know, you'd have to experiment with that probably outside, you know, so that you're not dealing with the smoke. Probably would matter if you're using bituminous coal or anthracite coal, as far as the smoke also might not be an issue at all, because as I said, it has a sealed door. So the lighting experiment of using bituminous coal to get anthracite going for sure worked. Like, I'm blown away that it for sure worked. All right, that is a hugie, because I've tried doing it on wood and I had tried doing it on charcoal, like regular grill charcoal. Neither of them worked good. They'd started, but they couldn't. It wasn't enough intensity to keep it lit. And most of the stuff that you see on YouTube, they use a wood fire, and they get that wood fire really going with coals. So you kind of have to sit there for, like, I don't know, at least a half an hour and let it burn down, probably more like an hour, and keep feeding it until you have some good coals on the bottom. And I'm just not up for that. Once it's going, you can keep pulling the lid off and dumping on, and it'll stay lit as long as you do the, you know, this thing, okay? So that also is something I did not do over that time. But I guess I'm going to lose my top light if I... All right, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to point this forward, and I will take the cap off. There goes my pipe, which I knew I was going to do. So that's how much coal is left without doing the grate at all, the shaker grate. Even a little bit. Like, I didn't touch the shaker grate during that time, and you see that's what the shaker grate does. I also didn't pick it. So had I picked it, like, and it's got a lot of ash. Like, that whole ash pan is full. So had I actually used the stove properly, this coal would have burned down, and I would have gotten a lot more results out of this. There actually is not a lot of actual coal left. It is mostly flake ashes. So would I have gotten another couple of hours out of it? Probably. And don't forget that I smashed this coal up to smaller than nut coal. All right. Remember, I bought stove size coal, which is not what most people suggest. They suggest nut coal for stoves. Don't ask me why. I was not a consultant on that project. And I busted my stuff up so that it was really small pieces. So that has a lot of surface area, which burns the coal quicker. So when I stuffed the stove, had I put in a little bit of small anthracite and then the big stove coal on top, I have no idea if that would have burned as longer or whatever. But in the meantime, the guy who gets all this stuff for us in China, I have a friend in China. He gets us stuff at very good prices, so that we can pass the prices on to you guys, and you guys are paying pretty good prices for stuff. So he found the original stove. I got the smallest one, but there are two larger sizes that I wasn't interested in because I wanted to test the tiny guy, because in my experience, the problem with stoves is that they burn too much fuel and that they're way too hot, is that you end up opening windows because they just throw too much heat. So, but there are two larger sizes that definitely will hold a lot more coal than this. One of them is about 6 or 7 inches bigger than this one, I think. Maybe 5 or 6 inches bigger, and then the other one is maybe another foot above this one, which also means they're fatter. They're not just longer, they're fatter. And this little guy is perfect for a one-room kind of thing. But overnight, especially, you probably it would make it overnight, but in the morning you may have to fight with relighting it if perhaps it went out. So I'd say that 6 hours for sure if you filled it right up to the top with slightly larger coal, but more than that probably would be a little bit too much to expect. Though you might be able to get 8 with a larger size coal, I have no idea. But for a first experiment, I wanted to get this out soon because winter is coming, people, in more ways than one. Winter is coming. There's nothing you can do once you're in a situation like this other than prepare yourself for what's coming. And it's coming. I'll see you next time.